Hello, my name is Marc Sommerfeld and welcome to my shop today. What we're going to be showing you today is how we're going to build cabinets in our shop. We're going to show you how we build this base cabinet, and then after that we're going to show you how we build a similar upper cabinet. Now, the nice thing about custom building cabinets, which you're going to be doing, the advantage of custom building a cabinet is this. If you were buying these three cabinets, basically we have three cabinets here. If you were buying them at a home center, for example, you'd be buying this cabinet and taking it out of one box. You'd take this middle cabinet, pull that out of another box. You'd take this drawer bank right here, pull that out of another box. You'd take those three cabinets, you'd screw the face frames together, and then you'd screw them to the wall. Well, the advantage about custom building your cabinets, you can build all three of these cabinets or more all in one cabinet with the same floor, the same face frame, and everything. And it's going to look a lot nicer, and you're going to save materials because you're not bunching up with two sides here and two sides here. You just have one partition in the cabinet. Now, let's say we wanted to make this cabinet longer. Okay, we wanted another bank like this, another base like that right here. All we simply do is take this stile off, bring a middle stile, bring it right in here, bring these rails coming across, and you can make this cabinet any length you want. I've built cabinets 12 foot long before. So that's the advantage of custom building cabinets. Now, another advantage we're going to have in building our cabinets is we have this new method called the tongue and groove method. What we're doing, every piece of wood in here is put together with a tongue like this and a groove, right like that, okay? What we're doing, the side of our cabinet is being tongue grooved into here. Our partitions are tongue and grooved in. Even our floor down here is tongue and grooved in, okay? When we get up to our corner blocks, you take these corner blocks, we have tongue and grooves on our corner blocks where they're tongue and grooved. So the whole cabinet is locked together with the tongue and groove. Now, years ago when I built cabinets, what I would do is I would take and build the face frame, attach the sides. What I would do then is I would just simply go like this. I would take and nail the face frame to the cabinet. Then along came the pocket hole. You would pocket hole the side of the cabinet in. Well, the bad thing about that, the pocket hole, you have to line it up. It slides. You have to line it up by eye, and it's a pretty ugly joint. Well, the beautiful thing about the tongue and groove is this. When you put that tongue into that groove, not only are you getting a tremendous amount of strength, but you're also getting a tremendous amount of accuracy. It sets it just perfect for you. So that's how I'm going to show you how we build our cabinets now with this tongue and groove method. So what we're going to do next is get started building this base cabinet. Okay, we're ready to start building our cabinet. The first thing you do when you build a cabinet is you're going to build the face frame first. The reason why is if that face frame is built square, everything that fits behind it has to be square, especially when we're using this tongue and groove method. Everything's going to line up perfect. Okay, you can see I have my face frame laid out on the floor here. And you can attach in the corners of your face frame different ways. You can mortise and tenon this joint, you can biscuit, you can dowel, you can pocket hole it. We're going to pocket hole it. We'll show you later how we do that because it's quick and it's easy. But that's the only place I use the pocket hole in the entire cabinet. Okay, to lay out those pocket holes now, what we need to do is right here, you can see this piece is attached to this piece right here. Okay, we're going to put two pocket holes right here. We're also going to have two pocket holes right here. And if you want to mark all the pocket holes on your project, you're going to see that you're going to end up seeing that every piece, all the end grain is going to have pocket holes except my end stile. There's no pocket holes here, but otherwise every end grain member has two pocket holes. So we'll lay all those out and you'll know where to drill them. Now, the next thing we want to lay out on our face frame is we got to cut grooves. Remember, our side is going to be coming into here. Right here is my face frame. Here's the side of my cabinet coming into here. Right? Okay, you can see in the back of that stile there, we have a groove. Well, we have to know whether to put that groove on this side of the board or that side of the board. Well, it's simple here because on this one here, the side panel is going to come into the outside. So you can see this piece right here, we're going to mark it and put our groove on this side. Okay, we'll go across the whole cabinet. On this piece now, we can put that partition on either side. Well, let's just pick a side. We're going to pick this side. We want to do it on one of the sides because we want it flush for our drawers here. We want this flush. Now, we go down to this style. We can put this groove on this piece on either side. Well, we're definitely going to choose this side because right here, and the reason why is because now I'm automatically going to be lined up for 4 drawers for my drawer slides. If I put it over here, I'd have to build out for all 4 drawers, so we don't want to do that. Our last one here now, this piece here goes next to the wall. And we're going to bring the groove to the inside for 2 reasons. Number 1, now we're automatically going to be lined up for our drawer slides, plus we have a huge scribe area out here. In case our wall is out of plumb, we can take and scribe this if it fits a crooked wall. So, we've got all of our grooves established in all of our styles. Now, let's go back here. We also need a groove on this top rail here. And we need the groove on the top side to connect all of our corner blocks here. See, we got a groove along the whole system here for our corner blocks. So we're going to take that top rail, and we always put the groove on the top side. Now, on the bottom one down here, our bottom rail, we're going to put a groove also on the top side because that's where our floor is going to come in and be flush right here. So what we have now, we have all the grooves established, all the pocket holes. We're ready to go start drilling our pocket holes. Okay, we have all of our face frame members laying here. We're going to drill the pocket holes where they're required. We have our little pocket hole jig here. I just use a little pocket hole jig because it's the only place I use it. Whenever you're using a pocket hole jig, here's the step drill. You want to set the stop collar on that step drill. So when it goes into your bushing there, you want to set that stop collar so you're about 1/8 of an inch off the floor. You don't want that to penetrate through the wood. Okay? So all you do is take your member, insert it into the jig, clamp it, and we're going to drill our pocket hole right like this. We're just using a little battery operated drill, electric drill you can use too, but right there's your 2 pocket holes. Now we'll continue doing that on all the rest of our members. All right, you can see now we have all the pocket holes drilled. Now what's needed to do next is we have to take these members over to our router table, and we're going to cut that groove in the back here wherever those are needed. Okay, we're ready to start cutting the grooves in the back of those face frame members with our tongue and groove set right here. And you can see this is our groove cutter and this is our tongue cutter. And what's nice about our tongue and groove set, as all of our sets, they're perfectly matched. If I'm going to pull these 2 together, you can see where that groove is perfectly matched height-wise, right to fit in that tongue with these 2 bits bottomed out. Now, so it all goes to say, when you stick that groove cutter in there and cut your groove, if you pull this out and stick your tongue cutter in, what's going to happen is the tongue and groove are going to match, and when they go together right here like this, you're going to have a perfectly flush fit because those 2 bits are perfectly aligned. Now, a lot of people don't make their bits that way, and the reason we can get by doing it, it makes it so much easier because you're not adjusting the height of your router. Once I have my router set to the right height, I can build a whole set of kitchen cabinets without ever moving my router. And the way we get by with it is when we set that bit in there, you go to tighten up that bit. Everybody says you're supposed to move it up about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch. Why? Because when you tighten up that bit should have the capability of sucking down the collet to get tight. Well, in the bottom of my collet right there, I got this little O-ring. You can see it right here. So when I set that bit on top of that little O-ring right there, when I go to tighten it, that bit will compress against that O-ring the same every time, and that's our little secret. All right, so we're going to stick that groove cutter into our router, all right, and we're going to snug it up right here. Now, once it's tight, we're ready to go. We're going to put our insert ring in here. Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to get that bit set to the correct height. And using the tongue and groove, what I always do is I want about 1/8 of an inch shoulder right here on this tongue, on the offset. I want about 1/8 of an inch shoulder on the one side. So that's where we want that. Now, if you happen to have our little easy set, it's a little gauge that sets 8 different bits. The groove cutter, tongue and groove cutter is right here. And the thickness of wood I'm using today is 13/16. So I just dial this little jig into 3/4 over here to 13/16. I know I'm set at the right height. So I'll bring this around, and you can see I've got to raise my groove cutter up. Okay, now you can see we're lined up perfectly to the right height with our easy set. Now, we're ready to start cutting that groove. So we're going to bring our fence over, and all we have to do is take a little straight edge on that bearing and pivot that fence so we're lined up flush with our bearing. We're ready to start cutting the groove. Now, what we're going to do is we're just making a sample cut here to show you what's going on. We're going to come into here and we're going to cut the groove. Okay, right there, you can see our groove is cut. Now, the next thing we want to do is come into here, and we're going to change the groove cutter out and put that tongue cutter in. So, just simply pull the groove cutter, insert the tongue cutter. We know we're set at the right height. Snug it up. Insert ring, we're ready to go. Again, what we're going to do is take that straight edge on the middle bearing now, pivot our fence so we're flush with that bearing, and we're ready to cut the tongues. Now, you'll see whenever we start cutting matching tongues, you're always going to put the good side down. The side that you want flush out here is considered the good side. You always put that down. Right there is our tongue, and right here is our groove. And you can see how nice and flush that is. I can't even drag my fingernail across there to meet that flush. So that's how we do the tongue and groove. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this tongue cutter out of here, put the groove cutter back in, and we're going to start cutting our face frame members for real. Okay, we've got our groove cutter back in there now. We're ready to start and cut that groove. Remember, when we mark these, we don't want to cut that groove on this side. That was the front side. We want to cut the groove on the back side, but we want it on this edge of the board. So we're going to put it down. We're going to cut that groove right along here. Now, when you cut this, you don't want to cut that groove the entire way. Otherwise, you're going to destroy the integrity of that pocket hole. So what we're going to do is start cutting the groove approximately somewhere in here and end up approximately somewhere over in here. What I use as a gauge on my router table is my little insert ring here. I start about 1 inch in from here, and I stop about 1 inch in on this insert. I'll show you what we're doing right here. Okay, approximately 1 inch, 3/4, whatever. What we don't want to do, we can come into here, but we don't want to go through that part of the pocket hole right there. So we'll continue doing this with the rest of our face frame members here now, and then we'll be ready to assemble our face frame. Okay, you can see we have our face frame all laid out, ready to assemble it. Over here, I'll go over a few dimensions for you. And you're building standard cabinets. Cabinets are 34.5 inches high. So you're going to build, this style is always 31 inches because we cut our toe kick 3.5. So that's always 31. This is always going to be 27, you know, plus the 4 is 31. These, the length of these pieces is going to be whatever width of your drawer, whatever you want there. So that's going to vary. The bottom piece between your two styles is going to be 4 inches shorter than the length of your cabinet, of course. And all your other members are going to be variable. All right. Up and down on a drawer bank. Now, when we do this, we always make 5 inches here, 5 inches here. The bottom two drawers are 5.5, 5.5. To do that, we always have these blocks handy. We always keep them handy, laying around. You know for sure that that top rail is going right here. We can mark that. Okay, then comes our top drawer, 5 inches, so we can mark that. Our next drawer comes into here. We can mark this. This is 5.5. We can mark that. The bottom one we know is right here. And when we remove these now, we can simply mark the top of the drawer. Right here like that, the top of those rails. So we have exactly the position where all of these are going to go. Now, anytime you have a matching rail coming across, you want to make sure they're lined up. Bring these two pieces together. Okay? I'm going to slide this down to here, and I'll always take a spring clamp right here, like this. Okay? Now I can take a square and transfer the position of those rails across to that other member. Right like that. Anytime you have matching pieces like that, it's nice to do that because you know you're going to get perfect alignment. Remember, like I said at the beginning of the DVD here, we want that face frame square. If that face frame is square, everything fits behind it. It has to be square. Okay. Now, we're ready to start assembling this face frame. And when you start assembling a face frame, you want to start in one corner and you want to work diagonally when you start assembling that face frame. Here's what you don't want to do. We're always going to put this one in here first, that corner. Then we're going to put this piece in, then this piece, then this piece. Then we'll come in here and put this piece in next. And then we'll keep working. Now, you don't want to do this. You don't want to put this to here, then stick this member in, because that means you have to squeeze this one in between two pieces, see? And that's hard. It'll work, but it's hard. Always keep an open edge and work diagonally. All right. So we're going to start pocket screwing this corner together. Now, when I pocket screw my face frames, here's how I do it. I like this little glue bot here. You don't have to be shaking the glue. It's like hydraulics. You push this here and you always get glue no matter, you have to shake the bottle upside down. But we're going to put a little bit of glue right in here. We're also going to put a little bit of glue on our end grain. Okay? And what I'll do is, the bad thing about end grain, I'll show you right here. Whenever you put glue on end grain, and I always spread it a little bit like this. The end grain of a piece of wood is like a bunch of straws. They're just going to keep sucking that glue in. So what I'll do is I'll go through my whole face frame. I'll come into here and I'll put a bead of glue on all of my face frame, all the end grain. Okay? I'll go through that whole cabinet or the whole face frame, put glue on all the end grain. Then I'll come back and put another layer on. And what that first layer does, it absorbs into the end grain and it creates a better joint with that other glue coming on, that second layer of glue. All right, we've got that glue into there. We're going to assemble this joint. Now, the way we do that, we have our little face clamp here. It has a large pad on one side. That pad is going to go on the good side, on the back of the good side, right like this. We're going to squeeze it down, line it up, and it keeps that front flush. Now, the screws we're using, we have two different sizes of screws, 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. I like to use the 1.5 inches on the face frame because you got a long ways to go in there. It's going to make us a little bit stronger joint. And also, we like the big washer head screws. They don't sink in as fast. We just take our square drive driver and screw the joint together. Right there. Okay, we'll continue on now and start assembling that whole face frame. Okay, our face frame is now complete. You know, we got all the grooves cut where they're going to be. Face frame's all done. Now, the next we're going to start making our sides and attach the sides of the cabinet next. Okay, you can see where our face frame is done. We have that. The next thing we're going to do is we want to attach the side panel to the face frame. Now, to do that, this side panel is going to be, this end panel, side panel, is going to be showing. So whenever we do that, anything that's exposed, we don't use plywood, we use a raised panel. And you can refer to our raised panel DVD on how we make raised panels. But going over a few dimensions here for you. On the top rail here, I always make that 5 inches. The bottom rail is 5 inches. The back rail is 5 inches. This front rail, we only make that 4 1/4. Because once it gets attached to the face frame here, it becomes 5 inches, see? And also make sure you make it actually a little bit longer than 4 1/4, 4 1/2, because 1/4 of an inch of that is going to get eaten up in that tongue. This real middle style here, I make 3 inches, and then you can figure out what the panels can be. But in our handout sheet that we have, remember, this is 34 1/2 inches high, and the depth of all cabinets is 24. So you can figure the dimensions there. All right, after you have your panel made, there's going to be 4 things you have to do to this panel before you can attach it to the rail. What you have to do first is cut the groove. We're going to cut a groove on the top and a groove on the back. The groove on the top, remember, holds our corner blocks. See, our corner blocks fit right into those grooves. Also, we're going to cut a groove going down the back to receive the back of our cabinet. The other thing we have to do is cut a tongue on the front so it can be received in the groove in the back of our face frame. The next thing we have to do is down here in the bottom, we have to cut a toe kick area. And all of our toe kicks are 3 1/2 inches high and 3 1/2 inches from here to the start of the face frame. Okay, when we do that, I have another sample here. We always cut our toe kicks on a finished edge at a 45-degree angle. A lot of people just square them off and cut them straight. When you put your toe kick in there, you're going to see end grain. Well, this way we can cut a 45 on our toe kick and the end grain disappears. It makes it look much more attractive. Okay, after we've cut the toe kick, and when we cut that toe kick, just take this over to your table saw. Tilt your blade to a 45, put this next to the fence, and cut your 45. Then bring your bottom next to the fence and cut in, and the piece falls out. Now, if you're starting to do a left-hand cabinet, okay, my table saw tilts this way. When I do the other cabinet, you want the other one to go tilting this way, your table saw is not going to tilt. Well, that's when we take a jigsaw, set the jigsaw at a 45-degree bevel, and do that by hand. Okay, after the toe kick is done, the last thing we have to do with those 4 steps is we're going to take an air nail a cleat, and this cleat is always 4 3/4 inches high, and it's going to start right behind our toe kick, and we want it to end before we get to our groove in the back. We'll air nail that on all of our sides. What's that for? Well, let's assume that this is the floor of my cabinet. That's my floor of my cabinet comes down and rests on that, and that transfers all the weight to the real floor. So it makes the floor of your cabinet very strong. And then, of course, the front of my floor is tongue grooved into my face frame. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to take this piece. We've already got the toe kick cut, let's say. We're going to take it over to our router table, and we're going to cut the grooves and the tongue. Okay, you can see we still have our groove cutter in our router, and we're going to cut that groove in the back and the top of our panel. Now, in doing so, we're going to stick this panel up in here like this and run this through. And it's a little bit hard keeping this thing here, you know, tight and square. So we got a new a new feather board. It's not only a feather board, it's also a guard. We'll use it on our router table here. We'll clamp it into here. I'll show you later how we're going to use that. It's a guard. It guards a bit, but also you can see how these members here, it's a nice feather board. Well, we're going to use it this way. We're going to run it in these tracks, and right here and here. Now I'll show you how we're going to set this up. To set this jig, we're going to take a piece of stock the same thickness as what we're using right here. And we're just going to bring our feather guard in here. It takes about 3 or 4 fingers. Just press in and snug her down. Right there. And you can get your member out of there, and we're ready to run the back through. Now, in running this back through, that feather guard is tall enough, it's going to help keep it nice and plumb. Right there is my tongue and my grooves. Now, the next thing we're ready to do is switch bits and come into here and cut the tongue on the front. Okay, we've changed the groove cutter out, put our tongue cutter in there now, and we're going to cut the tongue on the front. Now, again, I'm going to take my feather guard, bring it over to here, and take my stock, and again, we'll center it. There's a center mark on here. All we have to do is, like again, just 2 or 3 fingers pressure, just enough pressure to keep that board snug. Now, we're ready to take the front of our cabinet. Remember what I said? This is the side we want flush. That's the good side. Well, we're always going to put that good side down when we run that member through. So we'll turn our router on and we'll cut our tongue in the front now. There. Now we know we got a nice, good straight tongue. This is a nice addition to our shop here, is this feather guard. It works great for us. Okay. Now, what we've got done, what we got left to do now, we've cut the grooves, we've cut the tongue, we've cut the toe kick. The last thing I'm going to do now is air nail that cleat on the bottom, right here. And all we do is we'll put a little bit of glue on the bottom of that. Line up that cleat with the bottom, and line up front of the toe kick. And we want to make sure we got the whole groove here in the back. Right there. And we'll just take our air gun here and air nail that on. Okay. Yeah, we've got our whole side prepared. We're ready to take and attach the side of this cabinet to the face frame next. Okay, we're ready to take and put this side panel on the back of the frame over here. Now, you can see we got to come up 3.5 inches when we clamp and glue that on. Okay, well, instead of holding that up, it's a lot easier to turn your face frame upside down like this. Okay, we'll come over to here and we'll put the top against the floor. It's a lot easier to line up that way. All right, now, what we're going to do is we'll put a little bit of glue in the groove and a little bit of glue on the tongue. And what I like to do is make sure I get a lot of glue on this outside edge right here, because that's where it's going to be sealing and showing. Okay, now we'll come up here. Same thing here on this, right down here. What's nice about this is what I like about this glue bottle, you have to turn it upside down. Okay, that's the finished edge Right here, put a little bit in here. Okay. Now, what we'll do is lock her into place. Bring it up so we can get our clamps on. Now, I used to use this tongue and groove method in conjunction with the pocket hole. You know, you could pocket screw. That's why we offset the joints if you want to pocket screw. But I got too tired of looking at those ugly pocket holes. And believe it or not, it's just as quick and easy to do it this way. Clamp it, and then that way you got a nice cabinet, no pocket holes showing, and it's plenty strong. I'll tell you what, that tongue and groove creates a very strong joint, and you can see right here the accuracy involved also. So we'll continue clamping our side panel on here. Okay, we're ready to take and put the other side in now. This side, remember, is against the wall, and since it's against the wall, it's not going to show. We're just going to use a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and you can see we have to put that tongue going into that groove right here. This is our good side, right? So we're going to take that good side, put it down, remember, and we're going to cut the tongue. The tongue cutter is still in our router table from our last cut. So we'll cut the tongue on the front. Okay, let's go over here, and you can see our tongue is ready to be received into our face frame. Now, the next thing we have to do, again, is cut the groove on the back and the groove on the top. And I want to show you how we do that again, because we're going to do something different when we're working with plywood. Okay, we've changed a bit, and we got our groove cutter back in there, and we're going to cut the groove in our back and our top. And like I said, when working with plywood, especially when you're going across the grain, it really chips really bad. And I'll even give you a little demonstration here what it does. Okay. I don't know if you can get a close-up of that, but that's pretty ugly. You see how this just chicks the heck out of the plywood. There's not much you can do about it. Well, what we decided to do, you can take two things you can do. You can move your fence ahead and take a little scoring cut and then take a second pass. But what I like to do is I'll take my piece of stock in here. Now I'll use my feather guard. And I only recommend doing this in plywood. Hardwood don't do this. But what we're going to do is push this in here pretty strongly. Okay, once that's in there tight, now what that allows us to do is called what's called climb cut. We'll feed it this way, and even though that bit's turning this way, it's not going to take off on you because our feather guard is going to hold it in place. But whenever you do this, again, I recommend only in plywood and stand on that side. So what we'll do, you can see, now you can see how clean a cut you get. Makes a nice clean cut for that plywood. So that's what I'm going to do when I'm working in plywood here, especially going across the grain. Okay, nice clean cuts here both ways. Okay. All right, we've got our grooves cut, our tongue cut, our toe kick. Remember the last thing we got to do is we got to get that toe kick. What we're going to do next is take some glue, air nail that toe kick on, and we'll be ready to take our side panel and attach it to our other face frame. Okay, we've got our clamps off. We clamped our side panel on there, our end panel, and we got both sides. Now what we're ready to do is put the floor in. And now where you don't need any dimensions anymore, all you do is go by measurement. So we're going to measure from the inside of this panel to the inside of that panel. And you can do that with any tape measure you want. I like to use the old-fashioned folding rule. It comes out like this. You get a really good accurate measurement. Okay, stick it on that panel. We'll extend this 69 1/4. So we're going to cut a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, 69 1/4, and we're always going to keep the same dimension going back here, 23 1/2. Okay, we've got a piece already cut out to that size, 23 1/2 by 69 1/4. What we need to do is cut a tongue on the front so it goes into the groove in our bottom of our face frame. We've already got the tongue cut, but I just want to remind you, remember, put the good side, this is the good side that shows down when you cut. And when I used to do these, I'd have a hard time holding that down because you want to get that tongue cut good. But that feather guard, you come into here and you cut that tongue, gives you good even pressure all the way when you're cutting that tongue, okay? And all right, we've already cut that tongue. You've seen it done. Now, what we'll do is switch cutters, put our feather guard on the horizontal position, and we're going to cut the 2 grooves, which we've already done the same way, in the same manner. We've cut the 2 grooves. Now, we're ready to take this member and insert it into our cabinet right here. Now, I want to show you a little one other thing right here now at this time. That tongue that we cut goes the entire span of our board. But the groove, I'll get this out of here so you can see the groove right here by my finger. It stops. Remember, we cut these beforehand, so we don't have no groove for that to go in. So what we have to do is take and eliminate some of the tongue. Wrestle this out of here for you. And you can see how we've already done that, eliminated some of the tongue. And we do that in our tongue and groove set. We have a little flush trimmer. And you can use this flush trim bit in the router, or you can use it by hand. All you simply do is turn on the router, come around the edge, and just take off a little bit on each side. Now, we're ready to take, and that floor will fit in there. So what we're doing is just relieving that tongue a little bit. Remember those 2 cleats I had? Those 2 cleats is where my floor rests on, right there on the sides. Now all I have to do is line this up. And I will be, ahead of time, I will be gluing this too, okay? We will have glued this in the meantime, but I'm just going to dry clamp this together here for you. Right there. She snugs up tight there. And you should see a little bead of glue squirting out right in here. Now, the next thing you do, you would also glue right underneath that cleat right there. Press your sides in here nice and tight and air nail down into there. So I'll finish doing that, gluing this in and air nailing both cleats. Then the next thing we're going to do is come into here and show you how we put our partitions in. Okay, our floor is clamped in now. Before we put these partitions in, what I want to do is come into here and show you how we're going to put a back cleat on. We can do that next here. I'm going to tilt this back and we're going to stick it back on the clamps. It won't hurt anything. And you can see how flexible our floor is in the back. It's strong in the front, but it's flexible. So what we're going to do is take a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and string that as we call a back cleat. What's the length of that? Well, if my floor is 69, I'm going to cut this 70 because I want a 1/4 inch tongue on this side and a 1/4 inch tongue on the other side. Also, on the top, I'm going to put a 1/4 inch tongue here too. So you can see they're the same distance as our side cleats here, except we're going to add a 1/4 inch to go into our groove at the bottom of our floor. So what we'll do is we'll line this up here, and what you want to do is again, glue this in, come into here, and you can see how it's going to fit into here, right like this. right there. And right there. Now, I'll get it started like that. Now, I'll come into here, spread my glue all along here like that on both sides. And I'll just take a little hammer, hammer that in, clamp it into the groove. I'll get some clamps now, put some glue, this, clamp it in, and we'll be ready to continue. Okay, you can see we took the clamps off for that bottom cleat there now, and with that bottom cleat, you can see how strong that makes the cabinet, the front and the back. It gives it a lot of support. Now, what we need to do next is, remember we have 3 cabinets here, our drawer bank, sink base, whatever, and another cabinet. We got to divide these cabinets. We've already got the groove here. So, to get the partition made here now, again, we're going to use 3/4 inch plywood. All we do is measure from the bottom to the top, which is 29 inches always. And remember, always coming back, we're 23.5. So, we've cut a piece out, 23.5 by 29. And also, we cut a groove along the top here. That groove along the top coincides with this one for our corner blocks. We also put one on this side for the corner blocks on this side. We've also cut the groove at the back on both sides for our backs. Then, we also cut a tongue in the front to be received into this groove. And you can see where we flush trimmed off the top and the bottom to allow for that groove not going. So what we're going to do now is we'll take and put a bead of glue into that groove. Again, this is nice because you don't have, run the glue right just like that for you. You don't have to turn it upside down. Put a little bit of glue here. I'm going to put it right on this edge because right that edge is what we want sealed. All right. What we'll do, remember when we first laid this out, this face frame out, we wanted this flush for our drawer slides. And it's going to be. So we'll start clamping this now. We're lined up flush here. Snug it up. Right there. Okay. We'll continue clamping this, and then we'll show you how we're going to put in our nail rail in the back. Okay, we've got our partitions clamped up there. We'll let them dry. While those are drying, we're going to stick our nail rail in the back. And what our nail rail in the back is for, it does 2 things. It locks the plywood in. Our plywood will go in that groove in the bottom of our cabinet. It also comes into the side. And while we have the groove cutter set, we're going to cut a groove here. On the same plane, we're going to cut tongues on both sides. We're also going to cut a groove on the inside right here to coincide with all these for our corner blocks. So all you do is measure from the inside of the partition to the inside of this partition. Add a quarter, and you arrive at this. And at the same setting, we're going to cut the grooves. We're going to flip it down and cut the groove there for the plywood back. So let me lock this in here just a little bit like this. And we're just going to dry clamp this so I can do some explaining here. Okay. Now, you can see where my plywood, that groove lines up with this groove. Everything lines up because we're never moving the router all day. All right? Come into here. This will slide up into that groove there. Now, when you do this way, you can see how I'm flush here and I'm flush here. And you'd have to lock that plywood in there. And what you're doing then is you have a whole solid flush black. So, if you want to describe this cabinet to the wall, you could not do it because it's all on the same plane in the back. Okay, if you're building a freestanding cabinet, which I'm doing, I'm building this for a friend, by the way, and it's going to have raised panels across the back here. It's an open bar area, so that's why I'm going to use this method where it's flush. Now, if this is a typical kitchen cabinet that's going back against a wall, some guys, or a lot of guys will do this. They'll take this piece out, cut it the same, just invert it, take it the other way, put the groove on the other side. Now, when I stick this into here, you can see that I'm recessed right here. Now I have a little scribe area I can scribe. Down here on the floor, come down here. What you'd have to do with this inside this groove is cut that off. This would be cut off completely. that way my floor, instead of coming down into that groove, it would go down past my floor and you would screw it into the floor that way. That way, this would be cut off too. You'd be screwing this cabinet, instead of it being locked into this groove right here, this would be gone, see? And you'd be nailing it into the partition. And also by doing that, this nail rail wouldn't stop here. It would go completely across the whole cabinet. And what you'd have to do for the nail rail is notch out an area right here for your two partitions. Now, if you didn't understand what I just told you, when we do the upper cabinet, I will do it that way and show you. Now, some people do this. Some people don't even put backs in their base cabinets. They'll just take this, put our corner blocks in later, butt it up against the wall, and what this nail rail is for is it's actually used to screw your cabinet to the wall, to your studs. So, we'll use it, we're going to turn it around, do it the other way, put our corner blocks in, and we'll continue from there. Okay, you can see we have all of our nail rails in place there, clamped and glued in there, and we even got our corner blocks in. And when installing these corner blocks here, we have one left to do. I'll show you how they work. We cut the piece out 2 inches wide, about 9 inches long at 45-degree angles to square up the cabinet, and they also allow you to attach the countertop. Now in cutting these, cutting the tongues on these, it's just like when we cut the tongues on our nail rails here. On the nail rails, we have a 90-degree piece, so we're going to use a 90-degree push block to cut those tongues on the end grain. Well, same thing on the 45-degree end grain. We're going to use a 45-degree push block like this. And we'll come into here, cut like that, turn the thing over, use a left-hand one to do the other side, and cut like that. So let's cut these two tongues on this last corner block here now. Now, when you go to install these, again, take your glue bot here and put some glue right here on the tongue, on both shoulders, just like that. And very easily, just line this up where you want. Tap them in there so they're square, and you're set. So that pretty well concludes the building of the basic cabinet. Now, the next thing I want to show you while we're building this cabinet is how we're going to construct our drawers next. Okay, we have two different types of drawer slides. Our epoxy coated ones, they're a little bit less expensive than the Blue Motion slides, but they have 3/4 extension. We'll show you how they work in a second. The Blue Motion slides are your really expensive ones like we have in our cabinet here. They got full extension on them. They're invisible. You don't see them. They're undermount. And when they close, you can watch how soft they close. They hit, go in nice and soft. So you cannot slam the door on these. You just go nice and soft. They're soft close. So we'll show you how we're going to install both of them. First of all, we'll show you how we're going to install the epoxy coated slides on the top here. Okay, we have a little mounting tool that installs our epoxy coated slides, and all you do is snap that slide in right like that, and it automatically gives you a back set of about 1/8 of an inch right here. Okay, and we're 90 degrees here. All we do is stick this into on top of our rail, and I always use a little spring clamp to temporarily hold that square for me. Now I have both hands free to take my screw gun and my screws and attach that slide to my cabinet right like that. So we'll go ahead and attach both of these slides here next. Okay, we've got those two slides set. Very easy to install with our little mounting tool. Now, installing the Blue Motion slides, we don't have a mounting tool for that, but it's very simple. The slide just sits right on top of that rail. And that rail is 15 inches off the ground, so we're just going to, 15 inches off the floor of our cabinet, so we just take a 15-inch piece of plywood, set inside there, and we just simply set our slide right on top right like that. And again, when you set these slides in, you want to set them back from the face frame about 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes I even go back just a little bit farther than that, 3/16 or so. We'll start putting these slides in with the same way, right like this. Okay, we've got our slides both set, both types, the epoxy coated ones and the Blue Motion slides. Now we're going to make the drawers next. In making the drawers, I always do this. The height of the drawer, if this is 5 inches, I make the drawer 4 inches. Okay? On the epoxy coated slides now, these are 22-inch slides, you make the drawer 22 inches deep. Okay? 22 inches deep. Now, which we have right here, 22 inches deep, 4 inches high. The width of the drawer now, with the epoxy coated slides, you have a 1/2 of an inch on each side of the drawer, 1/2 inch. So if this is 16 inches here, we're going to make the drawer 15 inches wide. And we have one drawer made there for that. We'll show you how we make them in a second. On these slides now, the full extension Blue Motion, we only make the drawer 21 inches deep because the back of the drawer has to fit inside this little pin right here. Now, as far as the width of the drawer, 1/2 inch again, but it's 1/2 inch total. That means we only have a 1/4 of an inch here and a 1/4 of an inch here. So if the drawer is 16 inches wide, we make the drawer 15.5 inches wide. Now, what I suggest doing is still though, when you get these slides, with these Blue Motion slides, read the instructions. They might change these down the road, different sizes. I don't know. So always read the instructions before you do anything. All right. So what we're going to do, there's lots of ways of building drawers, but we're going to show you, dovetailing is always considered the best. We're going to show you how we're going to dovetail these drawers using our new Katie jig. Okay, we've got our drawer sections laid out here. We're going to be making the drawer 15.5 inches wide by 21 inches long. We've got the pieces cut. How long do we cut the pieces? We actually cut them 15.5, the front and the back, and the sides 21 because we're using through dovetails. Here's a sample of a through dovetail. This is one of the sides here, and it goes all the way through to the front, and the front goes all the way through to the side. So it's very easy to arrive at the dimensions of your drawer. Okay, now, next thing we have to do is establish the inside of the drawer. And you can see we've done that simply by cutting the dado for the floor ahead of time. And when you cut that dado, always cut it about a 1/4 of an inch deep or halfway through the thickness of the stock. From the bottom of the floor to the top of the dado, we want about a 1/2 inch. We want a 1/2 inch right there. All right, so we're going to set these together. And now, next what we're going to do is number the corners. And number them 1, 1, each corner with numbers. 2 and 2 go together, 3 and 3, and 4 and 4. And when you number these, don't number real close to the edge because you might cut that out. When you cut it out, you'll lose the number. So keep the number back a little bit. Okay, the first thing we're going to do now, when we cut a dovetail here, we're going to cut the dovetail, use a dovetail bit here, use a pattern bit here. And those two joints have to go together. It's not going to work where number 1 and number 3 fit together. The numbers have to align up together, and you'll see why later. All right, we're going to use the sides first. We're going to cut the sides. We're going to cut the dovetails into the sides first. Okay, in cutting those dovetails, we're going to use the Katie jig right here. And we're going to cut the dovetails on this side with the dovetail bit, and we're going to cut the pattern bit, use the pattern bit on this side. And you can see how we got the odds and the evens up here. Remember what I said? We always put the groove to the inside, okay? We're going to do the number 1 side first, so we're going to put the groove to the inside. Well, the number 1 side has to go against the one side right here. So we stick this in our jig, slide it over till we're stopped. Make sure you're flush on the bottom right there and you're against the stop right there. Then all you do is take these toaster bar handles, snug it up. This jig comes with a really good instruction manual, so you can read the manual before you start cutting. All right, we've got our lock secured. Now what we're going to do next is stick the dovetail bit into our router. Okay, we'll snug it up. Put our insert ring into here. Right there. Now, how high do we set that dovetail bit? Well, what we need to do is find a piece of stock. This is the thickness of this stock right here. We're going to lay this right onto here, and I'm going to line it up to here. I want that bit to be just a little bit proud of this stock. So you can see I got to lower it just down just a little bit. Right there. However far that bit is going through the stock, that's how far your dovetails are going to go through each other. Okay, we've got the bit set to the right height. Now we're ready to come into here, and the bearing is going to be our guide. We're going to cut those 3 dovetails, right like this. Okay. Cutting dovetails with this jig, it just can't be any easier. All you do is unloosen this now, flip it over, we're keeping the inside to the inside. Now we got number 2, we know it has to go against number 2 over here. And we do the same thing. Make sure we're lined up against the stop, we're square, and we'll start cutting dovetails there. Okay, we've got all the dovetails cut on both sides. Now, we're ready to turn the jig around, use the other side, and we're going to cut with the pattern bit. And again, we put the inside of the door to the inside. This number 1 is against our number 1, right like this. Okay, we set her on, make sure she's flush on the top and pushed against the number 1, this stop. Now this stop really, technically, it could even be way over here, I don't care. You know, just so that they're square on both sides. But we're lined up here, snugged up, and we're ready to go. Now, what we need to do is change bits. Now, the nice thing about this set of bits, this dovetail bit and this pattern bit, we also, just like our other sets, made them the same height. So all we have to do with this pattern bit is drop it down onto our rubber grommet, and we're good to go. Snug it up. Put our insert ring in again. And we should be ready to go. Now, if you want to, for safety, just check it to make sure this is right height. We're just a little bit proud, just where we're supposed to be, right there. Now we'll start cutting with the pattern bit. Doing this is just not in and out, you're taking a bigger width. Now, on an area like this now, what I like to do, I don't like to come in here and cut right here. I'll cut out here first, clean it up, and then make my last cut in here. Same thing over here. Cut out here first, make your last cut in here. You'll see right now. Okay, now we'll show you how this fits together. Here's the sides of our drawers. Here's number 2, and here's number 2. And the grooves have to go together, of course. And we're gonna set it right like this. Now I'm just going to show you the snugness of the joint. I like my dovetail, you know, to be fairly tight and fairly snug. Now, you can make this joint looser if you want, simply by taking this backer board right here. See, and you can see I shimmed a little bit. I put a little piece of cardboard in here. Unloosen the 2 set screws here. If you want a looser joint, just shim this and bring that backer board out a little bit, and you'll get a little bit looser joint. But I like mine fairly snug. Okay, next thing we're going to do is take these 4 pieces over to our bench, and we'll show you how we glue them up. Okay, we're ready to glue up our drawer, but we have to cut the floor first. Now, let me show you how we arrive at the dimensions for the floor. It's very easy. We cut the grooves in here a little bit deeper than 1/4 of an inch. So let's say 1/4 of an inch. Well, you know the floor has to be the same length as this plus 1/4 and 1/4. So all you have to do is measure from right here to right here, 14 1/4, and add 1/4 and 1/4. So 14 3/4 is the width of our floor. The length of our floor, all we do is measure from the inside of this to the inside of one of these. 19 inches, 19.5 inches. So from here to here, add 1/4 and 1/4, 19.5. So we've cut our floor out right here to that size. We're ready to start gluing this up. Now, we're going to start with 1 and 1, let's say. You can start with either one. What I do is I'll start gluing here. I used to get the old glue bottle and shake it, but this glue bottle makes it very easy to glue up dovetails. You can have your glue setting upright, put a little bit of glue, and I always hit the tops of all these joints right here too, right like that. Okay, that one's done. Now, getting inside of here, I'll come inside of here on all of these too, right like that. Flip it over. You're ready to glue it together. Okay? So we'll take the 2 pieces, lay them on top right like that, and I just nudge them in with a hammer. And I always like a lot of glue in there. I'll just take that glue off like that, and we'll sand it later. All right, so we'll continue doing that with the other side right here now. Okay, there's our other side. Now, all we do is take our floor, lay it in there next. Right there. Now we do the same thing. We glue these joints, and we'll come down here and nail that on. So we'll continue to do that. All right. Our drawers put together here now. All sides lining up, nice and square. Now the next thing I like to do is I like to take the top edges of my drawers and put a little radius on that. So let's go over to our router table and I'll show you how we do that. Okay, you can see on my drawers here in my router table cabinet how I radius that top edge. I don't like to leave it square, so we'll show you how we do that in our router table here. We've got the roundover bit, a little roundover bit in our router, and all we're going to do is stick it upside down and radius all the inside and then the 3 sides on the outside. We don't want to radius this front outside edge because that's where our drawer front goes, and then we'd get dust going down in there. So all 4 edges on the inside and 3 edges on the outside. Okay, Yeah, you might require a little sanding in the corners there a little bit, but it really finishes off the drawer nice. All right. Next thing we want to do now is attach our drawer slides to the side. And the drawer slides have a left and right side, and when I insert them on, they sit right there like that. There's screws on the bottom, screws on the sides. I always use the screws on the sides, put one here and one here. So we're going to line that up with the front. You can bring it back just a hair if you want, and we'll start screwing the drawer slides to the side of the drawer. Okay, we got our slides attached. Now let's take this over to our cabinet and see how it fits. Okay, here's our drawer. We tilt it down like this, bring it up, and she fits nice. Now, we're going to show you how we're going to take and mount these slides, these Blue Motion slides, to our other drawer. Okay, we're ready to attach this to our slides. Now, before we do that, we'll show you how we have to prepare this drawer. You can see the slide now is going to fit, how it clamps on the inside of the drawer here like this. Well, you can see that my drawer has to be notched out here in order for this slide to fit. You can do that a bunch of different ways. One way is this drawer here. You can see we just left the back of that drawer out. That's one way of doing it. The other way is like this. What I did, I just took this over to the table saw and just made a series of cuts and notched and relieved it there. You could take a flush trim bit and flush trim it too, either way. All right. Once you have that relieved, now you can see where my drawer slide is going to fit in there, right like that. Okay, these drawer slides have a little tip on them, right there, that little tip. What we have to do is mark that where that's going to go. What I do is I set my slide onto here, and I'll just come into here and hit it. And you can see the little indentation it makes right there. Okay, so all we have to do is drill a 1/4 inch hole about halfway through that back. They make a little jig to do this with, but for the price of it, I don't think it's necessary to own it. I just mark them like that and drill them freehand. I've never had a problem right like that. Okay, now our slides, that's how they lock into the back. They'll lock into that pin right there like that. Now, what we have to do to the front now on the inside, in order for these slides to lock on the front, is these little clips come with the slides. Okay? And again, there's a little jig that you can take and drill the holes. I just take and push these in here and just freehand them right in here like this too, at a little bit of an angle. We'll screw those in. Drill going forward here. Okay, our drawer is all set now. The slides are already attached in the cabinet, remember. This drawer, we'll take it over to the cabinet and see how it works. Okay, in mounting our drawer slides, the Blue Motion slides, we have our clips on here. In the back, we have our slots drilled for the slides. We have our holes. These holes are going to line up with these here. All you do is simply just set the drawer on top of the slides. Push the drawer all the way in till the clips lock in the front, and they're locked in. Full extension and beautiful closing of that drawer. Just boom, just like that. All right, next thing we're going to do is put the other drawer back in, and I'll show you how we attach our drawer fronts next. Okay, we're ready to install the drawer front on the front of our drawer right there. And our openings here is 5 by 16, so we're going to go a 1/2 inch overlay on all sides. So we're going to make this 6 by 17. And the way I used to do this is I would put a stop underneath here, set it on here and a stop here, hold these two, put pressure on both pieces, come out, clamp this and screw it. And once in a while this invariably would slide and slip. Well, we found a better way of doing this. We got a little jig made out of plywood first of all. All we're going to do is just take and clamp this on so we're square on both sides right there. Okay, now when we put our drawer front on there, first thing we have to do is we have to drill the holes for our hardware anyway, so let's do that ahead of time. Let's do that ahead of time. We got our little easy mark here, and it's got a stop in the back right here, see? Okay? And our drawer is 17 inches, so all we have to do is line up with 17 on each side. We're lined up with 17 on each side. I'm going to slide this stop over here, and that's my alignment for all my drawers. They're all the same. The drawer this way is 6 inches, so we got a half scale going this way. All I have to do is line this up to the 6-inch mark right there, and let's gauge it right there. Perfect. Snug that down. Now we have some bushings we're going to drill through. If you got one knob, you drill this one. Here, for handles, you go here, and then you can adjust these to whatever width handles you want. Most of yours are right inside here like this. So once you got that locked into position, you're ready to drill the holes for your hardware, and they're drilled very accurately with this jig. It comes with a 6-inch aircraft drill. We're going to come into here. Drill that hole. Okay, we've got the holes drilled. They're perfectly placed now. We're ready to install that. All we do is set it on our jig. And with those 2 holes now, what I'm going to do is use those 2 holes and screw it right to my drawer. Okay? To do that, we're going to put our driver in, our square driver in. And all we have to do is set this up to here where we want it. And we know it's going to be perfectly placed. We're not pulling the drawer out or anything. Screw it right to our drawer. And you can do this with all 4 of your drawers. Now, once it's set, you know it's set perfect. Now we'll pull it out. We're going to take 2 screws from the inside now, one behind here and one behind here, and screw that drawer. Right there. And right here. There. Now we can come into here and lose these 2 screws now. Those are temporarily, but they did the alignment for us. Now we come back in here with our big drill bit, drill all the way through both, attach your hardware, and that's an easy way of aligning your drawers. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you an easy way of attaching the doors to your cabinet next. Okay, we'll show you how we're going to mount the hinges to our doors here now. And the hinges we use are the European type hinges. They're made for a face frame joint like we're doing. And first thing we have to do is drill the 3 holes. And you can see there's a big 35 millimeter hole we need and 2 8 millimeter holes, because we use the hinges that have the little dowels on them. They really work great, and I'll show you. We have a jig right here that's going to drill those 3 holes. You can see the three bits in the bottom. All you do is set this jig on your door. And I always line it up with one edge right here on the top. I have 2 cam clamps that come down and clamp that tight. Okay? Set it down, and we're going to drill the holes, just like this. The 2 8 millimeter holes first. And then the 35 millimeter. Okay, that quickly, you can drill the 3 holes, and they're lined up just perfectly placed for you. Now, what's nice about these doweled hinges, all you have to do is take that hinge and center it right there and 2 whacks. Your hinge is installed that quick and easy, right like that, okay? And those dowels will never come out. Now, what we're doing, remember, just like our doors, I'm taking this door and I'm overlaying it a 1/2 inch. These hinges are made for a 1/2 inch overlay. We also have other hinges for a 3/8 inch overlay and so forth. When I set this jig onto my door right here, you can see where these 2 stops stop it. Well, you can adjust those stops simply by turning this screw and turning your stop here. Number 3 setting is 3/8 of an inch. Number 2 setting is 1/2 inch. That's what basically I use. But right there is how we set it and stop it. So we're setting those 2 stops, Slide it down, line it up, and very easy to accurately drill your holes. Jig comes off, screws get mounted that quick and easy. Now you can take these, unscrew those plastic dowels will stay embedded in there, stain and spray your door, put your screws back in as many times as you want and you're ready to go. Okay, next I'm going to show you how we're going to install this door. Okay, we're going to mount that door and we're going to have a 1/2 inch overlay right here. You can see we put this 1.5 inch strip, we got it clamped onto there. Automatically the hinge is going to overlay me a 1/2 inch on my face frame up here. So you can see our hinges here. They have a little point here and 2 little points on the center. That's where you're going to center it on the face frame. So all we do is open it up, bring it up here, set it on our little stop, and pop it right there, and it's going to kind of halfway stick for you. And all we do is take 1 screw, comes with it, just put it right in the center. Right there. Okay, we've got our door attached there. Now, when you slam the door, now, remember here that door slamming? Well, remember we used to put those little felt bumpers here? Next, I'm going to show you a different way of silencing that door. Okay, we got a little Blue Motion closer here. And what we're going to do is mount this closer. You can see there's a little screwing mechanism right here, and when you unscrew that screw in or out, that makes the door close faster or slower. So make sure when you mount this up that screw is available right here. And we usually mount these to the inside of the door. The farther you get this out here, the slower the door is going to close. So we get them about 1.5 inches, between 1 and 2 inches away from the end. All right, so all you do is line this up approximately right there. There's a little stop on the front right there. Come underneath and screw it into the top of your face frame. Make sure we're lined up. Right there. And that's your closer. Now when I slam that door, see I got a nice soft close. Takes a while to close. And you can make that close faster or slower simply by coming in here and adjusting the pressure on that screw. We'll back it off. And you can see it's going to close slower yet. It takes longer yet. So, but it's nice for all doors, so they close nice and soft. Okay, we're pretty much done with our cabinet here. Let me show you a little review on our base cabinet next. Okay, you can see we pretty well got our base cabinet built, showing you how to use that tongue and groove method. Now, we're going to incorporate that same tongue and groove method, and I'll show you how we're going to build our uppers. Our uppers are pretty much the same as our bases, so we're going to go pretty fast, showing you how we do our upper cabinet next. Okay, here's the upper cabinets we're going to build. The same length as our base cabinets are going to fit above them. We got 2 doors here, 2 here, and 2 here that are up, and you can have a microwave or whatever you want to have here. We're showing a different aspect of uppers. Now, we're going to build the face frame the same way. We drill the pocket holes, we cut the grooves. The grooves are cut behind here because we're flush here. The grooves are also cut on the outside because we're flush on the 2 outsides. We also cut grooves down on the top of this bottom, on the top of this bottom, and on the top of this bottom piece. And you can see we're not going to cut any grooves though on the top here, okay, because our top is not going to fit into a groove. We don't have no corner blocks. Our top is just going to come a 1/4 inch plywood right down on top of here. All right. And also you can see we make this rail 4 inches wide instead of 2 inches. The reason I do that is because I have a lot of room for my crown, come down and attach my crown molding, and I can have the same reveal here as I do in the bottom. Okay, I'm going to turn this cabinet around so you can see what I'm talking about with the grooves. Okay, you can see we have the groove on the outside. This groove is right here on the inside, like so we're flush. Grooves at the top, none at the very top though. Okay, I'm going to show you now. Again, remember when we put our tongues in here, we've got our tongues and grooves. Flush trim this off so we bypass this. And what we did here, we cut a groove all the way down the back for our back here. Same thing over here. We got a groove all the way down each side. Now, on the middle section, we just cut the grooves partial because down here, this is going to be open. All right, so I'll show you how we're going to do this. What I'll do is I'll take and glue this up, and I'll clamp that tongue and groove into here, and then we'll show you how we're going to attach our floors. Down here, we'll have a floor in here and a floor down there. All right, so let me get this glued on here. Okay, we've got all of our partitions all glued in now. Now what we got to do is put our floors in. And all you do again, just like the base cabinet, measure from the inside to the inside. We cut a tongue on the front. Remember to flush trim that edge off where we don't have the groove. And on the backs of all these floors, we're going to cut a groove on the top. We're also going to cut a groove on the bottom. Okay? So to show you how we cut those tongues, let's just step over to our router table here. We stick that flush trimmer bit in there. Make sure the bearing is riding on the shoulder of our tenon right there. And here's how simple it is to cut them off. You just come into here. That's how easy it is to flush trim that tongue off. Get it nice and flush. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take and apply some glue like we have been to the tin in the groove. We'll come into here, and that's what I'll do next. I'll get all those glued and all the floors clamped in. Okay, we got our last clamp off of the floors. All our floors are glued in now, tongue and glued in. Now, what we need to do next is put a nail rail across the back on the bottom of all these floors. And what you do is measure from the inside to the inside here, add a quarter, add a quarter. And what's our distance right here from the bottom of the floor to the bottom of the face frame? It should be 1.25 inches. But don't forget to add another 1/4 inch to go into the groove we have on the bottom of our floor. So we've got that piece cut right here. 1.25 inches, we add that 1/4 inch for the tongue. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to glue this bottom cleat in. What this bottom cleat does, this bottom cleat also is for strengthening the floor on the bottom, but also it's a kind of a nail rail where we can also screw the cabinet to the wall. All right, so we're going to, this fits into, automatically lines up with the groove on the side of your cabinets right here. And it'll snap into that groove in the bottom of your floor right in here. So we'll just take a clamp and okay, once that's lined up tight, nice and tight, we'll bring her up flush. That'll automatically square up your cabinet. Right there, we're flush. And right there. Just a hit right. Okay. All right, there's our nail cleat in the back. Now, we can glue and clamp that. Some guys will sneak on the bottom of this floor, they'll sneak a couple pocket holes in the bottom there. You can hide them pretty good there if you want. But if you glue and screw that good enough, that's going to be plenty strong. So we'll continue to do that and put these back cleats in our other two sections. Okay, you can see we got our nail rails on the bottom clamped. Next thing we're going to do is put the nail rails on the top. And just like our base cabinet, we're cutting a piece, measuring the distance, adding a quarter, and we also cut that groove in the bottom coinciding with the tongue so that when we slide this down in the groove right there, right like that, see? So you're going to snug right down in there, and our 1/4 inch plywood back will be enclosed inside the two grooves here, the groove on the bottom and the groove on the top. But we'll be flush all along the back. Now, remember what I said? If you want to scribe this to the wall and you want to not have this sticking out, what you're going to have to do then is get a nail rail like this, a long nail rail going the whole distance, and cut the groove, cut the tongues, cut the groove. But on this now, what you're going to have to do on these middle sections is take a jigsaw and notch this out, notch where that groove comes out on the back so that your nail rail falls in. Then you can eliminate all of this in here so that the only thing that will be touching the wall will be this outside cabinet and this outside of the cabinet. Then you can scribe those two areas to get it snug to the wall. So you can do it either way, simply by cutting the tongue and groove and moving it this way or that way. You can play with that. So we're going to take and stick this in flush like this and glue and clamp this up all across next. Okay, you can see we got all our nail rails clamped in the back there now, and the cabinet's pretty well done. The only thing we have to do is do the top. And what we do at the top, we just simply take a piece of plywood and have it come over the top rail and then the back cleat there, and we'll just glue and air nail that top onto there. That's all we do, okay? And we're not worried about this 1/4 inch piece here showing, because we're always putting some kind of crown molding here. Even with this top rail being wide, it allows us to put some big, nice, wide crown molding on there. You know, it really dresses up the cabinet, and it hides this edge right here anyway. So after you're doing that, your top cabinet is basically completed. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed watching us build the cabinets with this new tongue and groove system. I hope you believe in it as strongly as I do. I really like the strength, and I really like the accuracy of the joint. And I hope you have just as much fun building cabinets as I did.